It's hard to imagine many people in the history of NFL having a bigger impact over generations than John Madden. First, as a coach, the youngest to ever win a Super Bowl. Then, as a color commentator, he set the standard in the booth with every network there was. Pat Summerall, Al Michaels, it didn't matter. And one of the reasons why people my age have such a hard time accepting anyone else in the booth is because we grew up with John Madden. And that's without everything that he brought, putting his name to the most iconic sports video game of all time. Joining me now from Locked On Raiders, it's your boy Q. And Q, John Madden, passed away at 85 years old, a Titan in the NFL. What will be your lasting memory of John Madden?
You know, that's hard to say because there's so many great memories, you know, as you mentioned, all the great things that he did and had his name attached to. And really, he was a guy, and I think this is the best way to answer it. Everything he did was excellent. Everything he did was iconic. Everything he did was next level. And like you mentioned, set the standard. He set the standard for coaching. He coached 10 years and was a great coach in the history of the Raiders and still actually has the all-time winning percentage as far as coaches go. You know, decided to walk away, not because he was getting fired, not because he was a worn-out coach, because he was just tired and said, hey, that's enough. I'm not going to coach again. And he didn't. You know, I'm not going to fly in a plane again. And he didn't. I mean, there was things that he said he was going to do, and he did it. There was things he said he wasn't going to do. He didn't do them. And there was things he didn't know he was going to do, and he still did them at a high level. So, I mean, I think it's just a good thing about it. As I'm talking about this, I got a big smile on my face. It's like, it's just excellence, man. You want to talk about a commitment to excellence, which is one of the Raiders' mottos? It's John Madden in a T.
And you brought up the coaching, and there are certainly going to be people who only think about him as someone whose name is on a video game. I was not old enough to see John Madden coach, but I certainly am a student of the game. I understand what his impact on the game was. I am old enough, though, to remember years and years of listening to him on Sundays call games. And when John Madden was on the call, your game meant something different. It was special because of what he brought to it. And, you know, look, I think there are going to be plenty of people who are going to remember the Frank Caliendo, the caricature that he became, tough acting, Tinactin, all of that stuff. But those of us that were there, and I hate to sound like an old head, and I know you don't, we're going to remember what just hearing his voice, you could hear it, and his commentating, it set a standard. You said it. It set a standard for what we expected these guys to be. And when he was on the call for your game, it just meant something different. I don't know that anyone will ever be to calling a game what John Madden was to calling a game.
No doubt about it, you know, and the thing about it is he did it in his way. He did it naturally. He didn't do it because that was the cookie cutter way of doing it and he was going to fit into that mold. All he did is go out and be him. And that's what you could really appreciate. And when you heard his voice, you could be in another room. You'd go and see, hey, what game is on right now? And think about this, you know, it's the holiday time, Thanksgiving. He changed the game on how we watch Thanksgiving games, what we expect from Thanksgiving games. Now we're talking about who's getting a turkey leg, you know, who's getting, I mean, whatever, you know, whatever the case may be, it's because of what John Madden brought to the table. You know, we talk about the Madden Cruiser, you talk about the video game. Again, John Madden did it and he did it his way. And that's something that I think anybody in any walk of life, no matter what your profession is, has to be able to appreciate. He allowed someone like me, without me even knowing it, know that I could just be myself and that was going to be okay. And either you were going to accept it or you weren't.
He was always unapologetically himself. And even later in his career, when he was sort of in on the bit with the turducken and all of that stuff, and he was aware that, yeah, people understood that he had these mannerisms and he leaned into them, but he leaned into them because he wanted to, because he had fun doing it. And by the way, he'd teach you something. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that you realize at the end of a game, you learn something from John Madden. How many broadcasters can really truly say that they were able to teach you something over the course of the game? John Madden was able to do that. Q, thank you so much.
He real quick, he was the guy, he might as well have had a book said, Learning Football for Dummies, you know? Yeah. I mean, because he was able to make anyone, and I don't mean to call anybody a dummy, but that's just kind of the cliff notes. He was able to make anyone understand the game of football to a T, and it was perfect.